Allegiance, here it goes. Can everybody see my flag? Okay.
Yep.
I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of
America,
and to the republic
which
for which it
stands
stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible.
indivisible, with
liberty and
liberty
justice for
all.
Great. Thank you, David and Dan and Ian, for being model members of the commission and liaisons to the commission. First thing, I guess we have to skip over the approval of the minutes. Communications, I don't have any. David, Dave Gavin, can you comment on the CHP project at the pool as to its current utilization?
Yeah, the last month, it was about 80% efficient. That means it was running about 80% of the time it was designed to run. Previous 3 months, it was a little, 50, less than 50. But
Hold on, time out. Time out.
Yeah.
I think it's important to distinguish between efficiency, productivity, and utilization. So the unit's efficiency, I guess, could change depending on its load factor. But basically, I think we've been talking the last couple of months of the problem of it not being used sufficiently. So last month we said, well, Dave will talk to Sheila, and it had something to do with the large boiler being in service and not the small boiler. I don't get that exactly, but rather than get too deeply involved in that, it said that the larger boiler takes over and does not properly communicate with the unit. I guess, is that still is that our theory, that it's not properly communicating? Dave, Dan?
yeah,
Bob?
that's my theory.
Okay, so that is, this says this, these are the minutes, but we can come back and clarify them later. But the minutes say this affects the efficiency of the unit. Is that strictly true, or is it affecting the utilization of the unit?
Well, in my opinion, it's utilization. I mean, we bought a product here from a company, and they gave us a proposal and said that this unit operated at 90+% of the time. It would contribute about $40,000 of savings.
Okay, so I agree, and I think I'm glad that I'm understanding that. So, but the point is that for some reason, which I don't really want to get into right now, but when the large boiler is running, the CHP unit is not running as much as it should. So it's not, the utilization of the unit is somewhat diminished by the large boiler being run. Is that still true? Is that what we think? Or is that what you think, Dave?
Well, that's my opinion. I'd like an engineering opinion of that.
Okay, so Dan Bombaro, do you have any comments to the contrary?
No comments to the contrary. I mean, Dave's understanding is if you look back at the minutes, concurrent with what I've been conveying to the group for some time now. While the higher efficiency boilers were down, the older, larger unit was running as the lead. And that was when there was an issue. The gentleman that we had been in contact with at Aegis Energy, who was the responsible party for both maintaining and remotely monitoring the equipment in place, has new staff that is becoming involved. We were in contact with them last week with Sheila regarding some seepage out of some of the joints at one location that had been previously reported and unresolved. So I would concur with Dave's understanding of where the issue arises from, and just note that it's less of a discussion of efficiency of the unit, because when it does run, it is likely running at the efficiency that it is queued up to be. However, it is the runtime. When we discuss percentage, we're looking more at percentage run as opposed to efficiencies, as is noted.
Okay, so Dave, I think my understanding is that it's actually running more now than it did earlier, like in the wintertime, I guess. Like it was in the 30, 40, 50% range, and now you said it was 80. So what caused the utilization to increase?
I haven't the vaguest idea. I
The units, the higher efficiency units came back on. I mean, if we were to look back at the dates and when this started acting more effectively in the time usage, those correlated pretty directly with the higher efficiency units coming back online.
So is there one large boiler and two smaller boilers?
There's the large boiler, and then there's two of the indirect gas units.
Oh, so they're not boilers. They're just,
They're high efficiency gas, and then there's a separate reservoir tank for the domestic. So there's a pretty large system. I think it's a matter of looking at or having Aegis review where the system becomes integrated and where the thermostats that regulate the control of the boiler is relative to the larger unit, and having them troubleshoot it. And again, there is new staff there that they have that's been assigned to Cheshire. I'm hopeful that we can get a line of communication.
Back 20 years ago when I was boss, basically I know what the problem is. You got to get Aegis meeting with the person who controls those boilers. It's not Cheryl, it's or Sheila. She's not an engineer. It's somebody that works for her. But if you go back in history, we had a big boiler. It failed 20 years ago. Bowman came in and said, hey, I just happened to have this huge big boiler. And they stuck it in there, and it had overcapacity for everything. And basically, I say, we're going to make this thing only when we need to heat the water, when we exchange the water. We put in room tap water and have to heat it up we'll use that big one, then we'll cut it off, and we'll use this much more efficient small one. That's not what's happening now. They're reverting. For some reason, the small one's failing, and the big one is trying to do it. But when the big one does it, it cuts out the cogen. And it's a simple thing. I mean,
it does relate to where it is in the line. It does relate to where it is in the line, where it's picking up the loop and where the thermostats are recognizing it. And it would be understandable if the way that the larger unit is looped into the system comes before the cogen, it's not calling for a demand where the water is circulating through it.
And that is not a correctable problem.
Again, it would be to Aegis to determine. We're being speculative at this point, Dave.
Well, we're paying them, I believe, money.
They have a contract agreement with the town of Cheshire, and they.
Okay, so hold on a second. Let me ask a question. I mean, I'm trying to simplify this a little bit, but I understand your concerns, Dave, and I think I understand what Dan is reporting. The only question I have is, Dan, are you in the mix? Are you part of the troubleshooting process, or is it just Aegis and Parks and Rec? And
structurally, it should be it should be Aegis who's troubleshooting and resolving the issue. I've on the commission's behalf have been involved over the last year in trying to work towards resolve, but directly I am not involved in the recreation side of the town operations. I have been trying to coordinate with Aegis and Sheila to work towards a resolve. Unfortunately, again, they've had some change over there. They not only have had change in staff, but they were also absorbed by a larger company, to my understanding, which might make make it some of the issue for them being able to get out there as readily to look at it. We have again provided them with a bunch of information. They should have remote access to the equipment that's there, which allows them to remotely monitor, much the same as a lot of the other systems that are in town. having a remote IP address to look backwards into the system. However, I think it's a feet on the ground evaluation of the way the loops are run.
Okay, so then the responsible party from the town of Cheshire is Sheila?
It would be the community pool.
Okay,
It would be the
so,
recreation side. Sheila is responsible for the pool.
okay, now Dave is saying that he doesn't think Sheila has the.
I can appreciate that. I certainly can.
Okay, and we're not trying to be critical
Yeah.
of anybody. It's just that we
Correct.
need to make sure that the right people are involved in the troubleshooting and the problem resolution. And so in as far as you know, when you said that several times that Aegis is troubleshooting, they've got some new staff assigned to this. Who are they working with? Are they just working on their own, or are they working with Sheila? Or
I don't know what coordination they've done with Sheila. In a sense, with the new staff, I did provide Sheila the new contact information based on an email that she sent me last week to troubleshoot a different issue that was going on with the equipment. So she does appear to be trying to take it on and managing, as best she can from her side. And I'm certainly there to provide assistance where needed.
so, David,
Dan,
do you think you can help?
Dan, do we know the engineer or person working for Sheila that is in charge of this operation?
The building staff there.
Yeah.
She does have a staff there that is maintaining the equipment. However, what their involvement in maintenance and management of the CHP unit, I couldn't speak to.
Dave, did you get in touch with Sheila, David?
No, but I'm gonna go down there tomorrow and talk to her.
Okay, why don't you
See
do
if I
that?
can bring these two parties together. and
Yeah.
get this straight.
We need a coordinator, a catalyst.
Yeah.
You're the catalyst. And
I hate to see us throwing $20,000 a year in the toilet.
yeah, no kidding. And that's exactly what's going to happen if the right people don't kind of get together and get their arms around this. I mean, I'm not sure how much commitment Aegis really has. Let's assume that they've got a contract. They're supposed to be a reputable company, and they know what the targets are. They know that it was supposed to run X number of hours a year, and they probably know that it's not because of some
Yeah,
issues.
2 months ago, Rich, I talked to the guy and he said he's, getting on board with everybody and the whole
Okay.
thing gets
All right,
straight.
so why don't we just leave it that you will have a conversation with the pool people and see what you can do to help coordinate.
Yeah, it's my tax money.
Dan Knutson.
From Panama.
You
Little remote.
You
That's
definitely get the
devotion,
award
man.
for the furthest away participation.
Do we not have a quorum?
Not yet.
Okay.
All right, so stay on. Maybe,
He's down Panama, right?
yeah, he is. Okay, so yeah, I don't know what you heard or what you didn't hear when you were listening in, Dan K, but we were talking about the pool and its utilization issues, and Dave is going to get in touch with Sheila or her supervisor and see if he can help put the right minds together.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we have Dan B. Anything to report on the energy waste at the concession stand?
I have not had communications back from staff assigned on that at this point.
Okay. So Chris Smith is not on, right? Unfortunately, let's skip over B. We'll go to publicity, education, outreach. I'm not aware of any news articles and letters to the editor, but we are planning to send off a letter on the life cycle costs. I asked for everybody's input and concurrence on whether we should do that, when we should do it, and how we should do it. Dan K, I didn't know you were going to be on the call, but he did send me an email saying that he thought that the draft revisions that I made looked good enough to publish. So between the three of us, I guess, we can't make a decision really, I guess, right now unless we have a quorum. But we are moving towards publishing a life cycle cost overview notice or what have you in some
We don't-
medium.
Want to wait a month to make that decision, right? I mean, can we make that decision via email?
Yeah, we don't have to wait another month, but
Okay.
Why don't we just make it right now?
well, I guess we could do that, but I don't know if that's an official business matter or not. We did talk about it last month. We said that we would incorporate the changes everybody's had a chance to look at. But we could do that. And in fact, we should do that rather than waste another month. Ryan O'Grady said that he can get it into the Cheshire Forum. And Dan Knutson, can you get it into the Herald or not from where you are? When you coming back?
Probably, I just come back in a few days, so I fly back on Wednesday. So why don't I do it then?
You could get, do you have a contact there or just,
I think her name is Marissa.
yeah, but I mean, do you know this person?
I met her with about I guess it was about the CCA. And I talked to her at a town council meeting, but I don't really know her, but
Okay, but you'll approach her
sure.
with this final draft. And if we all agree that it's good as is, then we just ask her to put something in the letter, the op-ed section of the paper, right?
Yeah.
I agree with that. And you know, one other thing, I've been through this like 1 or 2 times at school, referendum type of things. And it sort of has to be like a campaign where this is like the first. I mean, if we're all agreeing that we want a net zero approach to if we do a school, we have to follow up on it like every month with some sort of communication,
Yeah,
because you know who's going to vote against it. You basically know who's going to vote for it, and you just got to keep it moving, you know?
my fear is that, I mean, I don't want to necessarily create such a concern in the eye of the public that it creates some kind of barrier to the project, to what the SMC and the Board of Ed and the Town Council have put so much effort into. I know that the headline in the Cheshire Herald last week was kind of alarming. I don't know if you all remember what it said, but it mentioned something about the price of the new school plan was going to be significantly greater, in part because they want to put the birth to 3 age kids up at the new Northern School, and that's going to create another $20 million of expense. And it didn't make any mention at all of net zero, and that's definitely going to be more expensive. But again, this is probably a good time to make people aware of the fact that it's not the first cost that's important, it's the life cycle cost.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Whether if people want to vote for it or against it, the option of doing it correctly, long-term with savings, long-term, is our approach, you know, from a viewpoint of the environment and the ultimate cost over time, you know, not the initial first cost. So, I mean, that's our point of view, I think.
Yeah, does anybody else have a concern though that publishing a letter on life cycle cost could derail the next generation school plan or the effort or the path that they're on now?
Not me. I mean, it makes sense. I remember Tim White even saying from a school board position, he would not favor any project moving forward without life cycle cost and energy conservation.
Correct. That's correct. Okay, so let's go forward. Ryan can get it into the Cheshire Forum. And Dan Knutson can get it into the Cheshire Herald. Should it be anyplace else, or does the Herald somehow have a handoff to the Record Journal? Because they're all part of the same ownership, right? And also the Cheshire Citizen. The Cheshire Citizen and the Cheshire Herald publish the same stories every week, pretty much.
Yeah, I think that's just the Meriden paper.
Yeah, the Record Journal is the Meriden paper, but that Record Journal owns the Cheshire Herald.
Yeah.
Should we talk to the Record Journal, or is the Cheshire Herald enough? Dan, why don't you, Dan, when you talk to the editor or whoever the reporter for the Cheshire Herald, you can inquire as to whether or not the Record Journal should have access to that same letter. Or
Okay,
does the Cheshire Herald give it to them automatically or whatever? Okay.
okay.
Yeah,
Now,
one other point, as a senior citizen, I'm not a big spending guy, but and those are the people that are going to oppose it most, the seniors. But I think we should consider adopting some kind of continuing forwarding of our opinions and with information to support it, as far as life cycle cost. If we believe that this project should go forward, So
Sure.
not just this one, but every month or something we should. And there's plenty of stuff that from the Department of Energy, from that show that energy savings and is realistic on a continuing basis if you do the right thing.
Sure, I agree with that. Okay, so then, yeah, so Dan, Kay, you do the Cheshire Herald and possibly the Record Journal. Ryan, I can get in touch with Ryan after this meeting. I'll send him an email. He's already volunteered the Cheshire Forum approach, so I'll talk to him about that. The next item is clean energy, new municipal energy efficiency, cost-saving opportunities, additional solar carports, PV arrays, charging stations. Dave, Gavin, do you have anything to add? Any progress or changes in any way related to the, say, the net zero pilot program or anything else that we talked about last month?
No, but I think in the next month, I'm gonna start looking at the sewage plant as far as opportunities.
Okay,
Do some digging into that. I think that's one of our huge, largest consumers and
okay. Oh, it is, definitely. All right, so then I don't have anything specific on section F, grants, rebates, utility programs, other than to reiterate that whenever we do a major renovation or a new building project, we should involve Eversource, whether it's their CLP division or their Yankee Gas division, for their assistance in reviewing our plans and specs and making recommendations for energy efficiency and rebates and grants and all of that. Certainly, with respect to the new schools that are being proposed, they should be involved. And I didn't see any well, I don't see everything, but if there's nothing in the plans and specs for the next generation schools that includes Eversource electric and gas people, there ought to be, right? So we can minute that, and hopefully people will react accordingly.
Hey, Rich, listen, I've been impressed with your trying to get our rep on the council involved in this net zero thing, and
Yeah, well, thank you for
done a
that.
good
And
job on that.
yeah, I'm happy to report. Now, I don't know where to put it exactly. Maybe under, and you'll have to bounce around a little bit, but under I, school modernization, I've tried to copy everybody on my communications with the Board of Ed and the Town Council, individuals who are basically the decision makers on this new modernization program. And there was a meeting, two meetings actually last week. One was earlier in the week, like Monday or Tuesday. And my email to them had gotten to them in time to discuss it at the meeting. And I was told by a couple of people that there was discussion. And like Tim White for one, Peter Talbot for another, and Jim Jinks. And so evidently, if people were completely in the dark as far as what is net zero, what's all that mean, and who's this crazy idea that the Energy Commission is coming up with, they shouldn't be now. Dave Gavin was instrumental in providing that Discovery Elementary School link in Arlington, Virginia. That was an excellent video, really produced by the Department of Energy, but it talked about a school project in Virginia, which is net zero. I mean, it's a real life, real world, factual thing, and it's not crazy, and it's not pie in the sky. It's possible to build net zero buildings. They're being built all over the country, and we should build them here in our town. We have the wherewithal. We have the expertise. We certainly have by now enough interest by a lot of people to make it happen. But again, there's going to be an expense related, but it's probably very timely now to put that notice about life cycle out so people can start to understand that there is such a concept as life cycle, and that it could be used to make these two new schools, if they get approved, more viable than they would be otherwise.
Hey, Rich, even to the point that a lot of seniors like me would not vote for a non-net zero school, but I would, assuming reasonable life cycle cost savings, would vote for the other option.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that you're right. And there's probably a lot of people like you and a lot of people like me and a lot of people like Dan Kay. But we're kind of in the minority, right? I mean, I don't know what the demographics are in town. In fact, I was thinking about looking them up before this meeting, but there must be some statistical demographic information somewhere. And do you know anything about, is there any place on the town website or anywhere in the town, maybe Dan Bombero, that we could find out what the demographics are for the town? Meaning, this what percent of voters are over 65? What percent are male?
I think
female,
the best bet would be the
educated.
registrar's office.
The registrar. But do they have it graphic?
I wouldn't be able to speak to
Yeah.
that. Never looked that up.
Maybe, you know what? I'll send a letter off to who's the voter, the registrar.
and Tom and you're on mute, Ann.
And hard, Susan
Susan
Pappas.
Pappas, correct.
Yeah.
Susan Pappas,
Mhm.
and Tom Smith.
Tom Smith. Registrar of
We should
Voters.
approach if, depending on how much, many of us are for it, approaching the senior citizens, people, because I think that's your opposition, basically.
Excuse me for 1 second. George Deming just came in and Chris Smith is in.
Oh, good.
Oh, there's Mr. Deming.
Where's Mr. Deming? There he is.
Yeah, hi there.
It's Tucker.
Yeah,
How you doing, Tucker?
Tucker Deming.
I'm not even a member of your committee.
But
So-
I thought it would be probably beneficial if you would just tune in anyway, and you can kind of hear what we're talking about, see some faces and whatever. But yes, Ann reminded me that you have not been officially approved. Where's the
Sworn in
hang
yet.
Is it the
Appointed.
And then approved.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, they haven't approved my nomination to.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. It took a couple weeks to get the message through.
You would think that would be kind of easy to do, but after your nomination is approved, you got to be approved by the town council, right?
Well, I really don't know that process. I knew I had to be sworn in. I suppose the
Then
town
it's-
hall had something to say about it. Yeah.
I think somebody recommended, maybe your nominating committee recommends to the council, and council says, yeah, okay, that's great. And then you've got to go over to the town hall and get sworn in.
Uh-huh.
I think they provide the Bible, but, and then you're in. So you should be ready for next meeting, I would think. But yeah, listen in, and if you have, we could take comments from our audience as well. So if you have any questions about what's going on, just ask. And Chris Smith around?
He just joined. He is having difficulty with his audio.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
Hey,
Okay,
Sorry
so
about
Chris
that.
Smith, welcome, and you've made an official meeting out of this, because now we have a quorum. So we're gonna
Yes,
go
I
back.
saw the emails. I'm actually was in the middle of like my crazy work season. I wasn't planning on being here today, but I saw a few people couldn't make it, so I wanted to make sure we had a meeting. So I'm kind of double tasking right now.
Appreciate that. Are you in Washington right now, or in the Vatican, or what is that behind you?
No, that's just a virtual background that I use for my meetings. That's the Connecticut state capitol.
Is it?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
You should know that. Come on now.
It doesn't look, it looks too tall or something. I don't know. But anyway, thank you for joining. We can now approve the minutes from the last meeting. And I don't know if anybody has any comments or not. I read them quickly, and I don't, surprisingly. So, except,
Rich, do you want me to change under affecting utilization rather than efficiency? under the
yes,
boilers?
yes, thank you for reminding me of that.
Okay.
Yep. And with that change, I'd like to get a motion. Maybe Dave Gavin, you've got the continuity. You there, Dave?
Yeah, I'm here.
Make a motion to approve the minutes with the
Make a motion.
amendments. Anybody want to second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, and presumably there's no further discussion, so all in favor? Aye.
I
Aye, and aye. 4 ayes. Okay, 4 ayes. Okay, so so Chris Smith, now that you're here, do you have anything on old business 6C2 outreach advertisement? You were
No, I don't have any update on that. The only thing that I had in my notes for outreach, I think that might have been potentially a mischaracterization. I was going to be reaching out on the energy plan stuff and kind of take a look at what other energy commissions were doing on energy plans. But if that was outreach advertisement,
not
was that
quite
on?
sure, really. Yeah, I mean, I think what we were, well, yes, we did talk about that, but earlier, maybe a month, 2 months ago, we were talking about, somebody brought up the fact that the public in town might not even know that there is an energy commission. So we're talking about some way of reaching out to the public, letting them know that there is a commission of 7 volunteers and that, what do we do? That was the outreach that I was referring to here, but you're right too.
Okay, so yeah, why don't, honestly, we could probably combine some of that. I think part of what I was saying too, on that was if we were to do that, some of that could involve some public outreach, but in terms of, what we're doing, like, we don't really have public comment. I think I made that comment at the last meeting, as often as we should. I think I've been on the commission now for 1.5 years, and I think we've only had probably 2 or 3 folks, join for the kind of public comment, aside from invited guests, of course, but like from the community, I think we've only had 1 or 2. What about something along the lines of, each of us, I'm sure that we're probably connected on the forum and everything. I'm wondering if maybe on the Facebook Chester Community Forum, we could do kind of a post a month, maybe a week leading up to our meetings, kind of highlighting some of the things that we're talking about and see what type of engagement we might get.
Well, Chris, we just decided to publish our letter regarding the net zero schools plans on the Cheshire Forum. I think somebody volunteered to put it on there.
Yeah, Ryan O'Grady.
And that would do a big step forward as far as getting people, that are interested in Cheshire involved in the Energy Commission, I think. Maybe if you could do an introduction to that letter, would help,
Yeah, and Dan K, you've got, I think we all have the latest version of letter. I don't remember if there was a call to action at the end of that letter, but there ought to be. Like, if you want additional information, please contact a member of the Energy Commission at CheshireCT.org, or some kind of a loop back, so that people who might have a question or a comment on the content of that letter can get back to us.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's in there or not, to be honest with you. I can't remember.
I'll tell you, most things that appear there, there's usually a lot of comments on the content.
Yeah, I don't know how, can we actually publish a letter that long, or is it a link to the letter?
Probably be a link to the letter. I've seen PDFs shared. There before. So yeah, I don't see any problem sharing it, or if it's linked, I don't know, maybe Ann, is it linked or will it be linked on the municipal site?
I mean, you could certainly put that under Energy Commission, I would think, right, Dan? Would that be?
I would assume as such.
I mean, that's probably a better approach if we provide a link, because not only, it'll also drive people to the website where our commission page is too. And maybe that, kind of creates additional poking around for some folks.
Right.
Maybe a shorter introductory statement to the letter.
I don't know that length is a problem. People can stop reading at any point.
Yeah, but I see the Cheshire Forum a lot, almost every day. I look at it, and it's usually pretty short comments, and a lot of other comments about the comments, and a lot of them are not.
But we posted a letter before, and it was similar length.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be like every other post.
Okay. All right. So I'll
And
contact.
I'm not necessarily concerned about the length. I just think if we provide a link to it on the commission page, I mean, if we do an introductory to it, like it's talking about how it's, part of the modernization, that gets a lot of attention from folks, and they'll probably click the link. And I'm just saying, kind of 2 birds, 1 stone, right? We're kind of putting this out there for the community. We're also driving people to our page, and they can see who we are, what we're all about. I think it's kind of a, Dan, to your point, I'm not concerned about length either. I just think there's added benefit to have a link to the commission page. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
You could encourage people to check out our minutes
Right.
on the town website. I mean, those are posted.
Yep.
Ann's doing a lot of work to get those up there.
Okay.
So,
Okay, well, I'll contact Ryan and we'll discuss that, the linking yeah, I think it's all part of the idea. It's all outreach, right? And I agree. We've had very little ongoing continuous outreach. The only outreach that we ever really have is at the town fair or when we have those special programs that we sponsored for Solarize Cheshire or the HEC audits, HES audits. But it's probably a great idea to have continuous outreach so that the public is always involved and has the ability to ask questions or make comments or make suggestions. Okay. Where are we? Okay, so Dan B, just quickly, is there anything to report on the tree trimming efforts in town?
Nothing newer than last month's meeting. They are continually in town.
Okay. Man, I went down 691 this afternoon going east, and the traffic was all backed up, and they had these huge green tree trimming vehicles, and they looked like they had booms on them, and they were on the right lane, which was closed, that was causing the traffic backup. And they had to be 40 feet in the air, and they were cutting all the trees down the side of the road. It's really,
Wow.
I don't know who the company was, but they were green. They were not, Aspen has orange trucks, right? So these were
Correct.
green. I don't know who they were, but they were doing quite a number on those trees. Okay, so then let's go to H, Coalition for Sustainable Cheshire. I think I copied everybody on my email to Amy Thompson, asking her for some help in extracting data from the portfolio manager that can be used by Sustainable Cheshire to get their silver status. And I have not received a response from Amy Thompson. I don't know if you did, Dan, because I asked her to contact you also to.
I haven't had any contact from her. No.
So then down below on school modernization, I did send a letter to the Board of Ed and Town Council on April 19th. And I got limited response, direct response, but I do know that there was a lot of discussion at the Board of Ed Town Council combined meeting and also the Board of Ed meeting planning committee. And I'm absolutely certain that we've got the idea out there. We floated the idea about net zero schools. Now, in my letter, I think I did mention that there were 2 steps that needed to be covered before we did any new schools, right? You've got in June, I'm not sure the date, but sometime in June, they have to submit a grant application for reimbursement, right? That's June. I don't know what the date is, but sometime in June. And then the referendum, unless somebody's made a change, is November 5th, whatever. Is it, Dan, is it the 5th?
It's the 8th.
The 8th? Okay. So I'm still a little unclear as to how you can ask for a grant for reimbursement, cost reimbursement, if you don't know what the costs are going to be. And if you don't know what the final design is, which they don't, because they haven't even hired an architect, how can you go for reimbursement? How does anybody know how that works? Maybe Chris Smith, or Dan. Okay. How does a city submit an application for reimbursement if they don't know what the cost is going to be? Or does the state of Connecticut just say, well, okay, it's about $50 million per school? It might be 40, it might be 60. I mean, how close do they have to get?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah. Is anybody? Because my concern has been right along, and I started talking to Sylvia and to Tim Slocum and Jim Jinks and all. I started to talk to them back in October. So we wanted to talk to Colliers. We want to set up a meeting. We want to discuss net zero. And everybody told me, well, it's too early. It's premature. But we definitely are going to have you talk to them. We definitely want your input and all that. And yet we haven't given our input. I mean, we told them we want net zero, but I don't know what the school design is going to be. And Tim White keeps talking about education specs. I'm not sure what an education spec really is, unless is it a physical specification for a building, or is it a concept? Does anybody know that? Why is there such a, I don't know. I don't know why there's so much uncertainty as to what the process is. I mean, I'm uncertain. I'm sure that the town council and the Board of Ed must have a pretty good idea of what they want to do. But does the public know?
I attended the meeting and boy, I'll tell you, it seemed to me kind of off the cuff, you know, they were really trying to put together an awful lot into the package that they had no information about. Wow.
Who's speaking? I can't see.
Oh, it's Tucker Deming.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you did. Okay. I'm sorry. So that's okay. That's good input. So you did attend a meeting.
Yes.
And so it sounds like you're saying kind of the same thing that I'm saying is,
Oh,
it
yeah.
doesn't seem to be anything really concrete,
It's
which
really
is fine, because maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't know. But how can you ask for reimbursement? How
Mhm.
can you put a referendum before the public? And November is not that far away.
No, well, they were debating about the architectural input that they should have to perhaps help the state and the voters understand exactly what's going on. But they don't want to, you know, they're still in the process of making commitments here. But if they commit to an architect, then they might get locked into him, and then we, you know, might not like what he does. And, you know, the process, wow, it just seems like it's needs a little bit more time than I'm afraid they're putting into it to meet the referendum date. It's
No, I think part of that is the political side of like how many students per classroom, how big a classroom, how much fresh air they're getting. It's not the building itself. It's the scholastic. What's the curricula gonna be like? Stuff like that.
well, that's all part of it, certainly. It seems that they're going to have to do quite a bit of night work on this one to get it wrapped up. And
Not to mention the marketing. How do you, like Dave says, how are you going to get a large number of people to vote for something that's not well defined?
oh yeah,
And it's going to cost 80 or 90 or $100 million.
I haven't heard that high. I've heard,
Well, each one of the two new elementary schools is in the vicinity of 45 to 50 million, right?
I guess that's true.
So, I mean, I'm not talking specific numbers here, so I hope, you know, I'm not trying to mislead people. All I'm saying is that 80 million, just say it's 80 million, let's say it's 90, whatever it is, that's a lot of money. And it's going to create a lot of questions.
Yes, indeed.
And it just doesn't seem like they have the answers.
Yeah.
Or maybe they
from our-
do, and it's just keeping them close to their vest. I don't know.
And from our viewpoint, how do you explain the concept of life-term cost versus one-time shot, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
it's so important.
Right, and our letter is speaking in generalities, right? We don't know if it's going to be a $50 million school or a $5 billion. It doesn't really make any difference. The point is that the life cycle operating cost is what they really need to be looking at, not the actual first cost. And I don't know. They keep telling me since October that it's too early to talk to Colliers. It's too early. There isn't an architect. And there was some communication back to me that said that, no, it came from Vin Masiana. And I think I sent my response to him, to everybody on the call here. And he said that there was a Colliers representative last week that made a presentation to the planning committee from the Board of Ed, or maybe the whole board, I don't know. But this architect had experience in net zero building construction. It's absolutely necessary to have experience in. My response to Vin Masiana is, I think we can all agree that that's a requirement. If you're going to have a net zero school, you need to be working with an architect who's done it before. But at least Vin Masiana he's kind of got his net zero thinking cap on. Not that he's necessarily agreeing with it, but everybody seems to be open to the idea. But I'm not aware of anybody doing anything about it. So we talk about it, but nothing is really being done about it. And yet 2 months from now, roughly, less, I think, they're going to be submitting a grant application for reimbursement on what? I don't know. It's just, and maybe the Board of Ed, if they're listening to this discussion or the time, they might say, hey, it's none of your business. You're the Energy Commission. Has the Public Building Commission been involved with this? Does anybody know? Dan Bombero?
No, they have not.
Well, how is that?
It's a lot to do, and to much the point that you made, the ed spec, I mean, from the peripheral, and this is very peripheral understanding, it's a lot to do, and the numbers of reimbursement have to do with whether you're doing a new school, the percentage of reimbursement versus whether or not you're utilizing existing space. Coupled with that are calculations that have to do with current enrollment, projected enrollment, and a lot of those numbers are moving targets that they have to anticipate. So a lot of the state reimbursement funding is less driven by what you're constructing and more the level that they're willing to be reimbursing town, municipality based on those calculations.
Okay, but Dan, there's 2 schools going right now, Manchester and another one that are building net zero schools right now, or have. Who in Cheshire is talking to those people as to how they approach the whole thing, and what are the loops and jumps and reimbursements and percentages and the whole deal?
I don't know. Again, Dave, my understanding and involvement is absolutely peripheral. It's from what I've seen on council meetings and Board of Ed meetings and such of that nature. It's not through direct involvement.
When it comes to state reimbursement as well, for all of these schools, there's a lot of stuff that's still in flux that will come into greater focus in the next 2 weeks. So the legislative session is wrapping up next Wednesday. That's part of the reason why I'm so slammed this month. But as you probably know, the whole school construction has been in flux for the last 6-8 months because of a alleged controversy scandal going on up there. And there was some moves to move school construction to different agencies, to have HVAC and other things included under school reimbursement. There's a lot of things that are still in flux. And until they have a budget agreement between the governor and the legislature, which I expect in the next 48 hours, we probably don't know what some of that stuff might look like. I should know better about some of the reimbursement rates for the state. But one of the things that still is contemplated is whether, you know, how HVAC is tackled. I know that doesn't answer the question exactly right now, but from the state reimbursement perspective, again, I mean, moral of the story here is still in flux for a couple of weeks.
Right, and
The
right
big
now,
item,
there's
the
there's
big
a
item
new-
there is how many air exchanges you need to maintain a, you know, a healthy environment, both, you know, well, you know, winter, summer.
Well, yeah, and there's also a new focus currently on indoor air quality. And maybe Chris Smith, you know about a bill that's being raised, I guess, or it's has been, or it's like you say, within a day or two, there's supposed to be a vote on a bill that deals with indoor air quality. And they're making very, very specific regulations, a certain number of, like you say, changes per hour, certain temperature range. I don't know what, I can't recall exactly, let's say 68 to 72 or whatever, a certain humidity range. There's a lot of focus now on indoor air quality.
So there's two bills out there, and I have to be careful on this one. I have to recuse myself from any official action on it because there's other things at play, you know, in my professional job on that. But I can, for information purposes, tell you that there are two indoor air quality bills out there. One of them was defeated without in committee, so there's one that still remains. But I think at the end of the day, it still is going to be folded into the budget of some kind. The challenge that that municipalities have is that the amount of money that was put in the proposed budget falls woefully short of what it would cost for schools to comply with the requirements there. The estimates are there's probably about 600 schools in the state that would require significant upgrades at a price tag of between $1 and $2 million each. And I think they included about 100 million in proposed bonding for the whole thing. That doesn't come close to meeting the needs, which means that if that were to pass, you know, there'd be a substantial outlay that still needs to that would still need to be found by the local districts.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I guess to sum up that discussion, it's not whether or not indoor air quality improvements are nice and desirable, but they may be, it's at some point in time mandated. There may be new rules and regulations that say you've got to have a certain temperature range, certain humidity range, certain number of air, and there's no questions about it. So yeah, we'll see. But, you know, and it, you know, part of that comes from the pandemic and the and just not, I mean, ventilation has always, not always, it's been a long-standing problem, even in our own schools. They're not, well, I shouldn't say they're not properly ventilated, but there's indications that they could be better ventilated. And
Right, and the big question there is recovering heat in
There
your
you go.
exhausted air.
right, a heat wheel of some sort, yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right, so I think, on item F, Chris Smith, do you have anything further to report on the spreadsheet of important dates? You were going
I haven't received anything from anybody to add to it. I started a framework, but I didn't have anything in there. I suppose what we just talked about can potentially go on there, but we were looking at the what was it? The Green Bank. We missed the boat on the Green Bank thing, and we were talking about it for next year. I think
Right.
that's the only thing I had on my list, but I don't have the dates for that. So if anybody does, please forward them along, and I'll keep a running list. But as of now, I haven't gotten any feedback on any of that stuff from commissioners or others.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I thought if there was going to be anything, it's already in effect as of January 1. Because we were talking about missing the deadline back last June, and there was another phase going to be available January 1st. Then they were talking about changing the program. There is a new, I can't recall it, it's residential renewable energy program or something. Do you know anything about that?
There's still something that there's a bill that's still waiting to be enacted, taken up in the next week and a half that may speak to that, but that's not set in stone yet. And that's one of those other things we'll know one way or the other by next Wednesday.
Okay.
You know, internally, as far as the group goes, I mean, we should be thinking about, you know, as the fall festival, if we're gonna do any promotional stuff for this referendum coming up, you know, how to approach that.
It's a good idea. That would be probably a very convenient. It's got to be some kind of a field or an athletic. I don't know if it's an athletic field, but there's got to be open space, and under that open space, there ought to be ground source heat pumps. Not pumps, but the well system, the horizontal wells.
Well, you know, what should be planned right now is a plan for the council to prepare a referendum with what they would suggest to proceed with. You know, it may be,
Right, you're right. And that I think but me on behalf of the commission, but I don't want to speak for everybody else, believes that design should include net zero. To the extent that it's feasible, cost effective, makes sense. Cheshire cannot be the only place in the country where it doesn't make sense.
Cost effective when you look at life cycle costs.
What's
Right.
that? Yes,
you know,
yes.
the first question I would ask was for Manchester and the other town, what was on their referendum question to proceed with net zero?
Right. Can we get a copy of
That's an
that?
interesting question. Yeah.
I wonder can we get a copy of it? Anybody, David, you want to try to
Yeah,
tackle that?
I'll call up the town people there.
You can look at the email that I sent you a copy of, that I responded to Vin Massiana's questions and comments. He talked about the Mansfield Net Zero project and the Colliers, or the architect that Colliers worked with, who have had experience with that project.
Right.
And you can contact them. I don't know, you need me to send you the email again, or do you have it? You know, trash my
No,
email.
send it to me again. But you know, I'm kind of, you know, I'm like a real old timer. And if I had to vote in that referendum, spend this money, yes, no, or spend this money and long term it'll save you and the town X million dollars in operational costs and add so many teachers, or however it's phrased, it would make a big decision, you know, this, or it'll help you resale value of a property or whatever. I mean, it'll be important to me to understand
Absolutely.
those.
How you frame the question it does change the answer you get. So
Right.
Yeah, but I don't know that that's our responsibility.
No,
I
no,
mean, the
that's
marketing
my
of this is-
opinion. That's just a one opinion.
Yeah, why don't you, Dave, will you agree then to try to reach out to Mansfield or whoever else has done this and see if you can get a copy of their referendum?
Yeah,
question?
man, I think it's Manchester and Mansfield. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Manchester and yeah.
We'd love to have some data on how.
Am I allowed to screen share? I have it right here. I can actually, I'll put a link in the chat, actually.
You have it?
Yep. I just did a little poking around on Manchester. So if you look in that, this is the pamphlet with the explanatory text and the graphs, but the question is on the left.
How do I save this?
I can't see it, Chris.
I can
I
see
put
it.
it, I put it in the chat. If you click on that link,
Oh, I can
At
download
the
it.
bottom
too.
of your screen.
Yeah. I'm saving it to my desktop.
Chris, could you do me a favor and email it? I'm
Yep.
sorry, but
No,
I
no,
just
it's
tried to
fine.
open it. I'm
Yep.
having trouble. I'm working on my phone.
that's okay. I'll email it right now.
This is really, yeah, this is important. Debt service payments on existing authorized. Okay, Chris, that's great. I'm glad that you were able to get that. That's Manchester. Is there a similar one for Mansfield?
I didn't get that far yet, but I can check that too.
Yeah, okay. And if you do find something, you can email it to us, please.
Yep. I'll check it now, actually. I could just gotta find out when the Mansfield one was. These are all three-part searches here. When was the vote? Check the news and then find the ballot.
Okay. All right, so then, Tucker there has been waiting patiently. And he has made some comments. I appreciate that, but whoever might not have joined earlier in the meeting, and if you look at the new business item on the agenda, we thought we might have a new commissioner appointment by now, but there's been a slight delay. So Tucker is interested and has the, I think he's got the requisite experience and interest. And I think by next meeting, you ought to be, are you still on? Yeah.
Yes, I am, right.
By next meeting, hopefully, unless he's changed his mind now, he can
You guys
join the
put
group.
them into it. Yep.
But I hope you don't change your mind. And you can see here that there's a lot to be done, and a lot of what needs to be done happens between meetings, right? So I think, I don't know if you said you were retired or semi-retired.
Yeah, semi. Let's go for semi.
Semi, okay. So, yeah, and whoever can help out in between meetings, that's important. And we all have. I mean, every one of us on the call has done something outside of our regular fourth Monday of the month meetings.
Okay.
So we'll have to defer until next month to acknowledge the appointment.
Mhm.
And I think that brings me to the end of what I needed to talk about. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about? Dave?
I just want to point out two things. Once, sorry for being late, and I am double tasking with work, so I apologize for my attention being diverted. Two things. One, Dan Bombaro, I think I updated everything that you had provided to me via email last time. Is there anything else in terms of the?
I'll check the last date of your upload, and I'll see if there's anything since.
Okay, and then, Mr. Chairman, we were talking about the, you know, how engagement and kind of the frustration we had. This was the idea about having an energy strategy, which I volunteered to do some of the initial research on, but I think it takes a little while, and I don't anticipate having that done before our next meeting. But over the summer, I wanted to pull some of that stuff together. If we as a commission, you know, really kind of roll up our sleeves and focus on, you know, the potential of establishing an energy plan for the town that we can bring to the town council, that could be the benchmark. I know we use the word benchmark a lot, but the benchmark or the lens through which we look at some of these projects. And if we can get buy-in from the council, I think that creates at least a little bit of framework where we're not kind of one-offing, you know, this project or this reimbursement program or this. Like if we had something, I think Hamden has done something similar, and I think a couple of other communities have. I just haven't been able to pull that together yet. I intend to do that, and I'd like to bring that to this commission, you know, to explore that further. But I don't think this is a short-term project. I think this is kind of a long-term project that I think will, maybe drive a little bit more interest and accountability into what we're doing. Recognizing that we don't have power beyond, advisory in nature. I think part of this really does need some buy-in from both the board and the council.
Okay, a couple, maybe 10 years ago, we submitted an energy plan to Michael Mylone. At that time, he was the town manager. And I looked that up after the last meeting, or maybe the second to the last meeting. And I'll send you a copy of that. It's probably something that's got a date of, maybe it's 15 years ago, but I'll send it to you and you can take a look at it. It's a plan. I'm not sure if it's exactly what you had in mind, but it might have some applicability to what you're trying to develop.
If nothing else, a springboard to jump from, that would be appreciated. If you did send that before, I apologize. It's probably.
No, I didn't find it until recently, maybe 2 weeks ago or so, when I was looking through my old files, and I did see it, and I think when I saw it, it might have said draft on it, but I don't think it. I think we finalized a draft. We submitted it to the town manager to be. It was actually written around a time when energy conservation was in vogue, because there was, I don't know if it was whatever, we were looking for ways to manage energy consumption for cost savings purposes, and there were bulleted items of what could town staff do to help manage energy.
That sounds probably, it might have been right around the time before I was a Cheshire resident, when I was a Wallingford resident, and I was the chairman of that energy commission, and we did something similar, and that was in like 2007, 2008.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I
something
have
like
those files, but yeah, I got, maybe I can try to track those down.
that. Okay, all right, I will send you that. That's all I've got. Is there anybody else? Dan, Dave, Dan, K, Dan.
I'll make a motion to.
Dan's gonna make a motion. All right, go ahead.
And I just wanted to welcome Tucker too. Sorry, I was late.
Let's hope I'm here next month.
All right.
Hey, listen, and Chris, you've basically taken care of that Meriden Mansfield input through your email.
Yeah, I don't have Mansfield, but Manchester is there. Mansfield's proving harder to find, but at Manchester I sent, and that actually has all the stuff I think we were asking about. So
Okay.
Okay, good. Yeah, I downloaded that, so I'm all set. Okay, Dan K made a motion and somebody wants to second it. Dave, thank you very much. No further discussion, please. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Adios.